Hey, how y'all doing? Today, remember the 6,000 layer count billet I made up, the feather pattern? It's up there, the highest layer count I've ever done. Today I'm going to see if I can forge that billet out. Big chance it will break apart here. I'm going to see if I can do that. If I'm successful, then I'm going to make another feather pattern billet to make the fittings for the handle. That will be the guard and the pommel and the spacer. So let's see how I get on. This is the billet, which is the 6,000 layer billet, and this is after cutting and reforging and a slight draw out. I drew it out to this because I wasn't actually sure what I was going to make with this billet. You maybe saw the last video. I didn't know whether to cut the billet in half down its length and get two knives out of it, but after kind of studying a bit and thinking about it, when you draw feather patterns out, you've kind of got to do it at welding heat. You lose a lot of steel to scale, and if I cut that in half, there's no room for any errors, which is bound to be a failure. So what I decided to do was just make one knife out of this billet, and I am glad I did. So I'm going to forge this down now. I'm not going to show the initial forging, guys, because I've done it before and I really did need to concentrate on forging out this billet. And what you see here now is just a continuation of the process, really. I did most of the work on the anvil with the hammer. You've really got to be careful drawing out feather patterns, as I've said, because they will crack open on you any opportunity. I think this opened up in about 3 or 4 different places, and if you're quick you can get it back together again. You've just got to be really on your guard with this stuff. I didn't do that much on the press. I did forge the tang down on the press for the knife, and the rest of it was all mainly done over the anvil. After I've worked this for, you know, sort of 20 minutes, I felt confident that the forge welds were then going to stick, and I could then put it back on the press for a bit more work. Well, the thing about forging out this feather pattern, I cannot forge the blade to shape, so I've just got to draw it out to its length and width, and then I've got to grind the shape in, because if I forge the front in, it will distort the pattern. If I try and draw the belly out, it will distort the pattern. So the whole bar has just got to be drawn out to its length, to its width, and everything else got to be either cut or ground to shape. This is the end of the forging process now, and I'm just making sure the blade is dead straight, dead flat. There was a couple of little cracks on the edge and on the spine, which are irrelevant because, as I say, it's over forged to size. The important thing about this was to keep the pattern intact along the edges and not deform the feather pattern. So after it had annealed and I'd surface ground it and I tried it against my template, I had to go back into forging and pull that out. There just wasn't enough meat there, and there just wasn't enough meat there, so you can see where I've kind of forged those sides in, the bevels in, to pull the steel out a bit more. That's the 240 grit surface grinder belt finish. That is the 40 grit stone surface grinder finish. And you can see which finish is the best. So I'll do a further surface grind on this once it's been grain refined and heat treated, but for now I am just going to etch it and have a look at the pattern and see how it's looking. Well, I had a couple of profile changes on this, so I've skinned it down there a little bit. I brought that back down. I ground the clip in a little bit more, and I've done a partial grind on the bevels. It's been heat treated, came out awesome, dead straight. It's now been tempered 3 times to 58.5 HRC, and I'm going to get it ground now. So there's virtually no straight lines on it apart from that one. I love the way that kind of follows in with the handle there. Anyway, I'm going to go and get it ground out to these lines here, and then finish grinding off the clip. I'll come back, I'll do some hand sanding. I've got my bevels ground in. I took it up to 400 grit. I'm going to carry on now and just do a little bit of hand sanding, clean these flats up and try and etch. I'm going to put a blackwood handle on, and I'd thought about doing some blued fittings, but it's going to look too much, so I think I'm just going to end up making a Damascus guard and a Damascus butt cap for it, or pommel. I didn't bother showing you how I drew this out. There's a couple of little tiny cracks in the sides which are fine, but basically I've got it. So I'm just going to give this a couple of normalising cycles, and then I can get all this scale pulled off, and yeah, we can make the guard. Can you see this? Possibly can. Looks really nice. It's a nice tight little pattern. I think it'll look well against the actual blade. So I've got plenty of length there to choose a bit that's just right for the guard. I also really love that pattern on the side there. I think that's going to look really cool against the knife. Right on the edge of the guard. I think that'll look really nice, that. So I need to grind all this decarb off, then we can have a look and choose a nice bit for the guard. Well, I'm sure this is a part you want to see. This has had a few etching cycles. It's nowhere near finished yet. There's a little bit more work to do on this, which will all get done before the knife eventually gets the fittings put on. But I will come back to it at some point. I'm rather busy at the moment, where I get the guards, the fittings, the handle, everything else laid out on it. Thank you to all my patrons. Hope you like the blade. Hit that like button if you do. See you soon, guys. Bye for now.